Hello friends, very good morning to all of you. So today we are going to cover adapter session, right? We have completed data store and PCB, and you see that how we are relating things, right? In PCB, how we relate to data store, right? Now we are going to create adapter, and we can just make a relation with data store and PCB and adapter, so that you will understand like how there is a connection between these two different modules of PingFederate, I will say, right? And yeah, once we just cover the policy part, right? We covered data store, we covered PCB. Today we are going to cover adapter. Then we will cover authentication policy contract, right? Then we cover the selector part. Then we cover the fragment. Then the policy. So once we complete the policy part, it's going to complete on PF19, right? Then you will get a very good understanding of the concept in PingFederate, right? And then like you will understand, okay, how the things are related, right? How data store, PCB, adapter, selector, how all the things are related, right? And then you can easily able to integrate any applications with PingFederate, and the users basically get a single sign-on feature while accessing the applications, right? They can experience, I'll say, the single sign-on while accessing the application. So yeah, let's begin. And this is the very important session of adapter till now. So please just if you have any question, please put in the comment section and we'll cover that. But yeah, maybe just watch carefully, and just we'll cover all the different types of adapters and how we just try to build a few of the adapters in PingFederate, our live environment also. Okay, so yeah, let's begin. So yeah, so okay, let's discuss on adapters. So I just opened this kind of whiteboard, I can say, right? Where we can just make some drawing also, or a structure like for explanation part, and then we can quickly jump to our PingFederate, okay, and then we can just do the configuration of adapters. And yeah, you can see okay. So let's start with adapter. Okay, so what is adapter exactly, right? So this is basically as I told you in the beginning session also, right? This is a like module, or I can say the feature of PingFederate, which basically handles the authentication mechanism, right? So here only you are designing and configuring an authentication. Like selector and policy is basically, I'll say, the authentication selector and authentication policy, those are basically for building the logics, right? Like for an example, if you need to develop some logic, right, like how a user can get land to what authentication mechanism, right? Whether first factor, second factor, or any different types of authentication, like Kerberos based authentication, radius based authentication. So you have different types of authentication. So how user can land to that is where we are basically building those logics on while developing the authentication policy. And selectors also play a role there, right? But they are not doing there in that place. We are not doing any authentication, right? Where exactly how authentication is basically managed by using adapter only, right? So for an example, like if I say that you access some application, right, and you get a login page where you are entering the ID and password. So this login page, this authentication is completely handled by this adapter only, right? Completely. Okay, so we can say the authentication mechanism, right? And those part, as I told, right, building logic part, right? Logic part we are just building in the while just developing the authentication policy. So there we are building the logics, right? But the main authentication mechanism is handled by the adapter, and we have different types of adapter for experiencing different types of authentication for the users, right? Maybe in industry or in any company, if you work, maybe you can see there are few types of authentication they introduce. But yeah, at least we need to know, so that if there is a requirement in your company, at least you can just design and manage that, and then the user basically can experience that, right? So now before jumping to the types of adapter, I just want to just make some relation, right? I just want to quickly make some diagram, like not diagram, let's say, just a second, let me choose a pencil. So I'll mention this as for an example adapter, okay? And this is our data store, and this is our PCB, okay? So all these three are related. I'm just trying to show you that part only, okay? This is as a PCB, sorry, password credential validator. I think you are now aware of that. Today we are discussing adapter, and this is basically, sorry, what happened? Yeah, and this is basically data store, okay? So now, like let me draw some line quickly. Okay. Sorry. Just understand this is like, or maybe let me erase it. Okay. Let me make a line again. Okay, so let me take a pencil again. Let me draw like this. This is good, I think, for practice, right? Maybe this whiteboard. Okay, so now as I told you, the adapter is the main authentication mechanism, right? So adapter can just give you a username password page, right? A login page with the username and password. So you can enter the username and password. This is basically handled by adapter, right? Now how this is going to verify, right, whether the username and password is correct or not. So there we have the concept of password credential validator, right? As we have seen in the previous session, right? Now how PCV can able to find that is correct or not. So PCV has to connect with data store, right? Because in data store is the direct data store is the like I'll say concept of PingFederate, which basically it connects to the some directory server, right, where exactly user is stored, right? A DS, I'll say a DS, right? In our case it's a OpenDJ, right? So adapter can display, maybe I'm just starting from the basic one, right? We have different types of adapter where there is no need of this PCV also, but leave this, okay? We'll just discuss later. For now, just try to understand. You have adapter, you design adapter where you have given a login page to the user with the username and password. Now who is going to verify this PCV, right? Like whether username and password is correct or not, and how PCV can able to verify, because PCV also has to verify from some place, right, where exactly user information is stored. So for that PCV will go to data store, right? And you know, right, data store, basically we already created data store, right? That means we have a connectivity with the directory server, right, where exactly the user information reside, right? Like we built a OpenDJ directory server, I think you know, right? We in PF14 we built that. So that's why the relation is like, so that's why how this all three things are related, right? So that's why we are going step by step, like we are covering data store first, then PCV, then adapter, then we are just trying to we'll just discuss the authentication policy contract, and then we'll go further further, yeah, like the select authentication selector fragments and policy, like that. And then you will get the complete your concept will be clear, okay, for the PingFederate part, and then you can easily able to design any policy, any adapter, and then your user can experience that, right, based on your design of whatever authentication mechanism you designed, right? Okay, so now this is the thing, right? Now this is one thing, right? Like for example, you build one application, right? Not you basically like you have one application which wants a single sign-on, right? So you have configured that application with PingFederate, right? You have one application you configured in PingFederate. Okay, now that application basically sends a request to PingFederate. Now in the PingFederate, you just configure this adapter, right, by which a user is getting a login page and user entering the username password, and that basically verify with the PCV. That means while building the adapter, you are defining PCV inside that, right? Then only it can understand, right, how ID and password needs to be verified, right? So you're defining that PCV under adapter, and that PCV basically have a connection with data store, and basically it connects to directory server, right? So you understand this relation. Now once the user verification done, so that is the not only work of PingFederate, right? Because the main goal is here, user has to access this application, right? So now once this authentication part is done, right, like once user gets verified, like you have given a login page, user enter the ID and password, and that's verified, right? Now in the PingFederate you need to build a SAML token, right, which basically you need to send to the application, right? We discussed in the beginning, like after authentication, right, PingFederate has to generate a token, and that token have the user information, right, the user credentials, basic information like user email address, first name, last name, like that, so that it can send to the application, and application can authorize the user from their own database, right, by verifying the role and whatever the things for the user, right? So while generating the SAML token, PingFederate has to collect the user information, right, like user details, like as I told, first name, last name, email and all. So for that, PingFederate has to connect where, right? Now again you need to think, right, exactly user information is stored where? It is definitely stored in DS only, right, directory server, because user information is there only, right? It's not anywhere else. So now again PingFederate has to connect there only, right? So while after authentication, once authentication complete, this adapter, by using this adapter only, it basically send just connect to the data store and fetch the information, right? It basically connects to this and get the user information, right? Like once this cycle completed, right, once the authentication done with the username and password, now adapter, through adapter only, you have a concept there. I'll show you while building the adapter. You can directly connect to this data store, right, and bring the information, right, like username, first name, email address, last name, and all those things, to build a token, right, to build a SAML token or whatever the token you have, right, so that you can send that token to the application. Then only application will just consume the token and then verify that the information came there with the trust, right, and then it will allow the user to access an application, right? So you understand there are two things happening here, right? One, you are going via PCB just for verifying the user. Once that is done, then you are basically directly connecting to the data store from adapter only to fetch the user information, because you need to build the token, right? Because your goal is basically you are doing two things, right, in PingFederate. In general, you are first verifying the user, right, and then you are generating a token so that you can send that token to the service provider, so that the application or the relying party, they can just consume the token and authorize the user, right, to access their application, right? So there are two things happening here. So maybe it's clear, right? So yeah, if you have anything, you can just put in the comment section. But yeah, I think like it's just a basic thing, right? You have adapter and you have built PCB. You just configured the PCB inside adapter, right, so that it can verify the username and password, and then you have a connection directly to the data store so that you can bring the user information to generate a SAML token, right? Or yeah, whatever the token you have. Okay, so this is one thing. This is important. Like. Okay, now like let's jump to the types of adapter, right? Because we need to understand now. First, right now you understand on a very basic that okay, you have an adapter which basically handles the authentication, right? And yeah, like you are basically how it basically handles the authentication. That means you are just designing an adapter which basically just give you a login, give a login page to the user. Once user enter the ID and password, it basically verify using PCB that you already configured in the adapter. And once it is verifies, then through adapter only you are just connecting to data store and then bringing the information and sending to the application. Then only like user able to access the application using single sign-on. How the concept is working, right? So that is the basic concept of adapter. Now in the PingFederate you have different types of adapter. Now you think, right, why different types of adapter? Because you can see, right, you need to give different experience to the user, right? Maybe you have heard about like multi-factor authentication, certificate-based authentication, Kerberos-based authentication, radius-based authentication. So different types of authentication you have. So how you can experience these all authentication to the user, right? By building this adapter only. As I told you, right, like adapter is the only thing in PingFederate which handles the authentication, right? If you are just using PingFederate for that, right? If you have any custom thing, then maybe you can just transfer that request from Ping to any other source who basically going to handle the thing, right? Like maybe Okta, Azure AD, ForgeRock, any other product, right? Who is going to handle that? But if your PingFederate is doing an authentication, it's definitely your adapter. You design that adapter with whatever the type you have, and then it's basically handling that, right? So this is the important thing now. Now let's try to understand different types of adapter, right? And just then only you will understand okay how authentication is designed and how it's happening, right? How authentication is happening. So let me just quickly rub this. Okay, this is like a chalkboard only. Sorry. It will not take much time to erase this. Yeah. If I'm going little fast also, yeah, just you can like maybe put in the comment section, like I'll try, but yeah, sometimes I'm just going little fast also. But yeah, maybe you can just put if you want like to be just make the video in a like slowly, okay, like by taking more time like that. So I'll try to cover in that way. Okay, so now what we are trying to understand here, types of adapter, right? That is again most important thing. So we have different types of adapter for different types of authentication mechanism, right? Different types of experiencing how a user can experience a different authentication, different types of authentication, right? So first type is like we are going to cover is, let me put is like HTML form adapter. Okay, HTML form adapter. So in HTML form adapter, what is happening? It's just like let Pencil. Okay, so HTML form adapter is like where basically if you just configure that, definitely you need to define an PCV so that like user can be verified with the username and password. So basically in HTML form adapter, what happens that user will get a login page, right? User will get a login page and user has to enter the ID and password, right? So if this is concept is happening, that means like while building this adapter, you need to definitely define the PCV, right? Like so that like it PingFederate basically able to verify the username and password. Okay, and while building the adapter, now you need to just define multiple things. Like you will I'll just show you, right? Like once we configure the adapter, like we'll just try to like configure maybe 2 or 3 adapters in PingFederate. So I'll show you there, right? So maybe it will just you just need to give some more details of the adapter, like what is the session timeout, ideal, max, right? Because this is the session which basically stores, right, like which hold for that particular time, right? If you have the session for 8 hours, that means like if an application configured with the same adapter, so it will not again ask for the login, right? Because again that application is happening just going to sending a request to PingFederate, and in the PingFederate the same adapter is configured and which is already having a valid session in the PingFederate side or in the browser, you can say, right? So it will not ask again for the authentication. So those type of session timeout we need to configure, and there are a few other details also. So I'll just show you there, like once we are configuring that, right? So the basic thing I'll say in the adapter building, you just need to define the PCV, right? So that your ID and password is verified. You need to definitely define the session timeout, right? So that for that period of time the session is active at the PingFed side, right? And you need to define the adapter like as I told you, right, in the just the beginning of this, like a data store part, right? So you just need to define the adapter contract fulfillment. That means like how you're going to fetch the values, right? Like user information. So you need to just define that also while building the adapter, like how you're going to fetch the values, right? Like whether username, first name, last name, any group or any other details of the user from the data store, right? So that part also you need to define. So there are the 3 basic things, like PCV, because you have the HTML form where you are giving the simple login page to the user, and yeah, like, and you just need to just configure the data store part also, so that you can bring the information directly to so that PingFederate like can create a SAML token or any other token also based on the application type, right? So this is just a basic form HTML form adapter. Now you will see that like for example, if you have multiple application, right, just configure with the HTML form adapter. Okay, like you have maybe 5 application in PingFederate and all are configured with the HTML form adapter. Okay, now if you are starting your day, right, so you will just go to the browser, you will open your laptop, just go to the browser, and then you will try to access maybe application number 1, right? So that means it basically sends a request to PingFederate. PingFederate just see that okay, you are not having any session active, so it will just give you a login page, right, where you will enter the username and password, and your authentication will complete, and then at the PingFederate side the token generation happened, and that's sent to the application, and you're able to access an application number 1, right, successfully with your login credentials. Now in the same browser, okay, in the same, like not incognito, in the same window also, like in new tab I will say, if you try to access like application number 2 or application number 3 or application number 4 or application number 5, it will not ask for any kind of login, right? Because again in the application number 2, if it sends a request to PingFederate, right, at the PingFed side it can see that, right, okay, the user session is already active because the same adapter you are configured for that application also. So same type of authentication mechanism is happening, right? If your application number 2 or 3 is configured with a different adapter, then it's a different concept, right? We need to see that what authentication mechanism you set, what is the session time and all those things, right? But if all the application configured with the same adapter HTML form, right, then application number 1 definitely will ask for the login because you are not having any valid session active in the browser, right? Because you are starting your day, so already the session is expired, right? So but if you access application number 2, 3, 4 or 5, it will not ask because your adapter have a session active, right? So that's way how the session is managed. We can see that part also, right, once we configure the adapter. But just try to understand HTML form is just like experiencing a username and password to the user, and this is the basic thing is happening, like you have the PCV, you have the DS configured, because there are 2 things, right, like verification of the user credentials and bringing the information to generate a token, right? That's the basic experience of HTML form. Okay, so let me erase this also. So this is that one type of adapter. Now we'll just cover there are varieties of adapters in PingFederate, right? So as per like your requirement, you need to design that. Sorry. Now you have the another one is the HTTP basic adapter. Okay. Okay, HTTP basic adapter. So what it exactly happening here, like it basically provides user authentication through a PCV also. Okay, it's also provide a user authentication through a password credential validator, right? In this case, right, basically in the initial, this user authentication is normally handled outside of the PF server using an application or an identity management system authentication module, right? That means, like, basically in this case, the initial user authentication is normally handled outside of the PingFederate server, maybe with any other identity management solution, right? It basically handled, right? And then, like, adapter or agents from PingFederate's integration kit are typically used to integrate with the local authentication mechanism, right? And then you can just configure with the local, means like how in the HTML form how we configured with the PCV and all, right? So basically in this case, what happened, HTTP basic adapter, what is exactly happening? It basically in this case, initially user authentication is handled by, like, outside of the PingFed server, maybe with any other identity management solution, right? And then it will just look, PingFed will look for the valid session, or if user have there or not. If not, then it can just give the same experience what you have seen in the HTML form, right? Just like a dialog box where user can enter the credentials, and then with the help of PCV, password credential validator, it can just verify, right? So I haven't, like in my project currently, I haven't worked with HTTP basic adapter, and in the past project also I haven't used, but yeah, like maybe we have some use cases where people are using this, right? Okay, so let's jump to the next one. Then you have identifier first adapter. Okay, identifier first adapter. What is this basically? Like, I'll just give you an example also. Like, I just worked with this adapter, like, very maybe in my last project, right? So basically, like, it just like helps to identify, right, before so that you can take some decision. Like, for an example, in a company you have two types of user, right? You have like a contractors, and you have your own employee, right? Like your company worker, right? Your company member, I will say. So now you need to just experience two different authentication. For your contractor, it should be different, and for your employee, it should be different, right? Because maybe your contractor have a different directory, they stored in a different directory server, right? And your employee stored in a different directory server. So you are designing basically two different types of authentication for these two different type of people. Maybe for your own employee, you can have a single factor authentication like that, and maybe for that you have some different types of authentication. Maybe it can just send a request to some other product, right? Like any other identity provider, like maybe Okta or any other AG already, and they can able to handle the authentication of your contract employees. So you have two different types of authentication here. In that case, you need to take a decision, right? Like whether this user is my contractors or my company worker, right? So in that case, identifier first adapter is playing a very important role, right? Using this, you can easily able to identify, and then you can able to design an authentication. For example, I'll show you that, like, yeah, I think I'll show you. So let's take an example. You have a user, okay? This is a user. Okay, user is just trying to access some application. Take and say this application A, okay? Now application A is sending a request to PingFederate, okay? Because application is not is integrated with PingFederate for authentication part, okay? It's sending a request to PingFederate. Now at PingFederate, we have a policy designed where identifier first adapter plays a role to verify a user, right? Because here PingFed don't know who is the user, right? Whether it's a contractor or a company worker, right? PingFed don't know, right? So in this case, what happened, like in the PingFederate, we have designed a policy which basically triggers identifier first adapter, okay? That means what happened, like user will get a dialog box here, okay, where it will ask for the username. I'll put it as a username, okay? Once user will put a username, like then what happened, that it will just verify that from some directory, right, that whether the user is a contractor or a company worker. Based on that, there are two different type of authentication we have designed, like if else condition kind of thing. You can think about that, right? So for an example, if this is a like a company worker, right, and this is maybe a contractor, one second, and this is maybe a contractor, like that, okay? So for that, what happened, that so for this company worker, you have maybe like HTML form adapter you have configured, right, which basically gives a username and password to the user, and the authentication will happen as we have seen, right? But for the contractor, you are not handling, right, maybe authentication. So what happened, maybe you are delegating that to some other product. Maybe take an example like AG or AD or Okta, okay? It's Okta is a different product, right? Just a competitor of PingFederate, maybe you can see, right? So basically what happened that user access an application enter request to PingFederate don't know who is the user, as per the policy whatever we have designed, right? So as per the policy whatever we designed, the identifier first adapter came into the picture first, which basically give a dialog box to the user put the username, right? And then we verified that from our directory server that whether user is a contractor or a company worker, and based on that we have two different types of authentication policy. For company worker we have just a HTML form adapter where user can enter the ID and password. For the contractor we basically delegate that request to Okta. So we can see that in our sessions, right, like how PingFederate can delegate also, right? So in this case PingFederate is acting as an identity provider, okay, like because service provider is the application and identity provider is a PingFederate, right? And for this company worker also PingFederate is IDP. But for contractor what happened, as you can see here, like as I told you, it's delegating to some other product, right? That means PingFederate itself changing from IDP to service provider, and Okta becomes here as IDP, right? So we can see this complex scenario later also, okay? And PingFederate can become as a SP for this request I am saying, okay? But yeah, for now just understand that you have some identifier, you are basically identifying the user, and based on that you have two different types of authentication authentication pattern you design, right, with by using adapter, okay? So like that. So that's the use of identifier first adapter, okay? Now let's move to another. This session is going to be little long, but yeah, sorry for that. Okay, so after identifier let's try to understand Kerberos, okay? Kerberos, like I will not explain much here because like this is PF16 part 1 we are covering. In PF16 part 3 I'm just going to explain you the with a proper diagram that how Kerberos based authentication is happening and how radius authentication is happening. So I'll just show you with a very good diagram. Maybe you will easily able to understand how this is happening, right? But on a basic on a I'll just give you a basic definition for this. Like for Kerberos adapter, it just provide a seamless desktop SSO experience, right, single sign-on experience for Windows environment, and support authentication mechanism assurance from the Active Directory domain service, right? That means basically you are just logging to some Windows machine, right? So using that only, it basically your machine generates a Kerberos token, and using that only you are able to access the applications, right, by going to the browser using that authentication. So basically you are just opening a laptop, you are just putting your credentials to get your authentication from the Windows, right, because you are just logging to the Windows machine. So using that only, it basically just your machine generates a Kerberos ticket, right? You can able to see that also by using klist Kerberos tickets if you can just go to command prompt and just put a klist, you're able to see those Kerberos ticket generated in your machine. So using that only, it basically helps you to get access to the application. So your basically authentication handled by that only, right? As I told you, right? So basically it's just seamless. It just gives you a desktop seamless desktop SSO experience and supports authentication mechanism assurance from the Active Directory domain services. Okay, and yeah, maybe in PF16 part 3 we'll just understand on a more way, right, how exactly this Kerberos adapter works, right? And what is basically, we're just trying to understand Kerberos adapter is a very simple, right? You just need to define, as I told you about the Active Directory, right? That means in the PingFederate you need to just configure Active Directory, and then using that you need to build that adapter, and then you can just configure that in the application so that your application users who are accessing that application can experience a Kerberos based authentication, right? So yeah, you can configure that. Right now we have already configured OpenDG directory server, so I'm not having plan to like configure Active Directory with PingFederate just to show this Kerberos part, okay? Because yeah, anyhow like we can see that like in PF16 part 3 we'll just try to understand more, right? And configuration is very simple. I'll say on the PingFed side, on the AD side you have Active Directory side, you need to do many things, right? So I'm not a very expert on the Active Directory side. I have some knowledge but not very much, right? So yeah, on the PingFed side it's very simple. I'll show you also, right? You just need to go there in the Active Directory and you just need to define the Active Directory name, the Active Directory username, right? Domain, Active Directory domain username, and the domain password, and you can build that in that way, right? And once you have the configuration, you can just build this adapter, and then your Kerberos based authentication will start working, right? So yeah, and yeah, I'll just show you. I just discuss more on PF16 part 3 on this. Let's discuss next. Let's open token adapter. This is very important. Okay, I have just integrated many application using this, so I have a very good experience on this. Maybe I'm just going to cover a separate session for open token. I have a very good guide. I'll show you. I'll just show you by configuration also. I'll just configure some application also, a sample application, so that your concept will also be clear with the open token, right? But just for an overview, I'll just quickly give so that you can understand, right? So think about that, like you have an application. Okay, so this is like you have an application. Take an example. You have a ASP.NET application. Okay, ASP.NET app running on the IIS web server. Okay, you heard about IIS web server. Okay, Internet Information Service, right? So you have a ASP.NET app running on the IIS web server, right? Now user, like you have a user. Okay, so you have a user who wants to access this application, okay, via browser definitely, and wants to experience a single sign-on, right? They also want, these users also want that I can also want a single sign-on to access this application. That means I don't want to give a login, I just want a single sign-on authentication mechanism to get access to this ASP.NET app. Now this app is basically not supporting any kind of standard, right? Like basically like through which it can just send a SAML or auth request to PingFederate, and that PingFed can able to handle that authentication, and then PingFed can send you the token by which you can just authorize the user as general what we have seen, right? For the SSO standard based application, like whether the application supports SAML, OAuth, web server federation, like that, right? So in those cases it's very simple. It's a straightforward thing. You need to just configure that so that your application initiate that request, send to Ping. Ping can just verify the user by using whatever the adapter and authentication mechanism it designed, and then it can just send you the token, and then you consume the token and authorize the user to access an application. That's a very generic way, right? Now in this case you not have that facility, right? You can't just send a SAML or those type of request because you have some legacy application, you can say. Now in this case PingFed have some solution using open token adapter. What Ping says that, let me draw something here. I'm not going to draw browser here, okay? Maybe that's, you can understand that part, okay? So I'll make something like this, okay? This is maybe take as a PingFederate. I'm going to discuss open token on a very detailed way, right? But I'm just giving you an idea here. Okay, so you have two PingFed here, right? So this PingFed is acting as service provider, okay, and this PingFed is acting as identity provider. So PingFed can act as a both, okay, as an identity provider as well as service provider, right? Maybe we can talk while just doing open token, or maybe in other cases also we will discuss that, right? So PingFed can act as both, right, service provider as well as identity provider. So in this case what is happening, like if I talk on the PingFed side, like you just need to just do the configuration. What configuration you need to do? Like PingFed SP has to talk to PingFederate IDP using SAML, okay, using SAML standard, because they can understand SAML, so they can talk in SAML, right? So PingFed SP, you need to just build a connection, right, by just making the endpoints to PingFed IDP so that the request can go from here to here, and then PingFed can just verify and send the response back to PF, right? So in PFSP you are just configuring an adapter which is named as a open token, okay? I'll say as a OT adapter, okay? So OT adapter you will configure at PingFed SP side, and the PingFed IDP you have configured maybe as a general, like HTML form adapter, okay? HTML form adapter, what we have seen in the first one, right? Just a login, username, password experience and validation, right? And bringing the user information from the data store. Now what is happening, right? Like in the PingFed SP, while configuring this OT adapter, you will just see you will get an agent file, right? Some agent file. That agent file you need to just send to this IIS web server, to this ASP.NET app team. So one team is sitting here, one team is sitting here, right? So on the PingFed side, you are just configuring the connection at the SP as well as the IDP. And in SP side, what you are doing, you are basically just built a connection, like a generic connection, SSO connection, and in that you defined a adapter as a open token, right? And then you get an agent file that you send to the application team, to the IIS web server team, so that they can deploy on their server. And then you have the SAML communication to PingFed SP to PingFed IDP, and the PingFed IDP, it's just a general thing, right? You have the HTML form adapter configured for the connection, where you are basically verifying the user and then getting the SAML token, generating the SAML token and sending back to the PFSP only, to PF service provider only, right? So basically, like, and on the IS side, you just need to just install the kit, right? You need to just go to the PingFederate integration kit option, right? I'll show you that also maybe in the open token session, right? And then you will get like a complete kit of PF IS server. You need to just install that kit in that IS web server, and you need to just define some endpoint values of PingFederate SP so that the communication can start, right? So this is all about the configuration and the communication connection building. We'll see more in the open token session, but just for an overview, like you can just think that user just went to the browser, right? Browser just sent to the user to this IS web server. Now at this web server, we have some file where we have configured the redirection and all those things to PingFed SP. Okay, that means the request is basically sent from here to the PingFed SP via browser only, definitely, right? Now once a request sent from here to PingFed SP, what happened at PingFed SP, the connection we built, it basically sends a request to where, right? It basically sent a request to PingFed IDP only, right? At the PingFed IDP, it's just a basic connection. We have a HTML form login page where user will enter the ID and password, get their authentication complete, and then basically from here, after authentication done, we just generate a SAML token and send back to the PingFed SP. In the PingFed SP, what happened? Using this adapter, will generate the open token which have the user information embedded, right? Like maybe user, whatever the attribute we have configured in the PingFed SP while building the connection in PingFed SP. Based on that only, it will have the user information, right? Username, first name, like that, email address. So that will store in the open token, and that open token we are going to send to the IS web server only, right? Now what happened at the IS web server? It basically just this application will read the header, because once we send the open token information, like if we are sending the username, email address, like that, we have some header name configured in the IS, right? Using the file again, right? So in the IS web server, if you can just decode the header information by going to the logs, you are able to see you are getting a information like something as a prefix, like you can say that pf.username, like pf.lastname, pf.email address, for something like that. So you get the header name, right, with the user information. Now in the ASP.NET app, the developer has to write a code to do the validation of the header, right? So for an example, they can just pick one header, like take an example of pf.email, right? So they can just look that if pf.email equals to this, like from their own database, then authorize the user based on the role. If not, just block them, okay, or just give some show them some error page, like that. So that is the basic concept, right? Like it basically just user has to go to the application, which basically like running on the IS will just send the request to PFSP. From PFSP, the request will go to PFIDP. From PFIDP, the same thing as it's happening, just basically authenticate the user using HTML form adapter, generate the SAML token, send the token back to the PFSP. PFSP will just consume the assertion, generates the open token, sends the open token back to the IS. IS will just get the header name of the user, and just ASP.NET app developers will just read the header and authorize the user. So this is a basic concept where you can see PingFederate acting as an identity provider as well as service provider, and you have a design which basically handles the applications which can give the single sign-on to the application, which are basically not able to support any kind of standard, right? Whether it's a SAML or auth, like that. But it's a kind of agent-based configuration, because as I told you, right, while building this OD adapter, you will get the agent file that you need to share with the application team, and also they need to install our integration kit, right? So it's a kind of agent model, right? I'll say here like a agent model. Okay, we have agentless also. I'll just discuss in the next adapter session. Okay, so this is about open token. This is a very like important. Maybe you will see many applications using this also. It's a kind of legacy, but still many applications are using. But yeah, like it's a kind of risky also, because you are deploying some agent file on some other server and you're not having any control, because you are having control here, right? You're having control in this place, okay, not at this. Okay, you're not having control any control this place, because it's handled by the application team. So yeah, we are not sure about the security and all those things at the application side, right? So it's a kind of concern also, but we have agentless model also. We'll try to understand that also. But yeah, open token is also been used in many of the places, right? Okay, so yeah, let's move to the next adapter. We'll just get one more chance also to understand open token. Okay, so if you have any confusion, yeah, maybe we can discuss that time. Yeah, and most important, we can do the configuration that time, so it's really going to help you a lot to understand the things. Yeah, we can just quickly enable our IS web server in our Windows machine, and then we can just try to integrate a SAML application using OpenToken. Okay, so it's okay. So next we completed OpenToken. So now in my list, what next is, I think, I think it's a PingID. I think you are aware of this, maybe. So PingID adapter is basically it's basically experience a user as a multi-factor. There's a second factor authentication, like maybe it's just authenticate you using OTP, using SMS, or like you have the biometric option also in your mobile. You can just enable that. So all those options you can get, and just you can complete your multi-factor authentication. And basically PingID adapter is a cloud solution, right? It basically running in the PingOne cloud. So it's definitely it's a product by Ping Identity company only, but they have their own cloud, PingOne, where PingID is running. So you just need to just create your account in PingOne as an enterprise, and then you can just you just need to do the configuration of PingID. You just need to export the PingID properties file from there, and then you need to import that in the PingFederate while building this adapter, right? And then you can just design a multi-factor authentication using PingID. You have other option also for multi-factor authentication. You can go with a SafeNet. You can go with the DO, right? These are the different products which basically you need to configure in the PingFed. You need to just integrate with the PingFederate, so that you can get able to configure the second factor authentication as a multi-factor, right? So that's about PingID. Okay, let's see this also. Now in my list, the next one is PingOne Da Vinci. Okay, PingOne Da Vinci. So what is this PingOne Da Vinci adapter? So basically it's just allows PingFederate to use PingOne as an IDP as part of your PingFederate authentication policy. Okay, that means basically, like, once you just configure this PingOne Da Vinci in the PingFederate, so basically it is allowing PingFederate to use PingOne as an IDP as part of your PingFed authentication policy. That means PingOne is going to act as an identity provider and you just need to design this in your authentication policy. That means in the PingFederate, while you're designing authentication policy, you can just allow this PingFederate to use this PingOne as an identity provider, right? So PingOne is going to do the handling the authentication of the account or validation of a user account, like that. So you can just configure this and design an authentication policy in PingFederate so that you can allow PingOne to act as an IDP, right? Identity provider. Okay, so that's a use of PingOne Da Vinci. Then you have, let me write like that. No need to erase. So then we have the PingOne MFA adapter. Okay, so again, this is like PingOne MFA adapter is basically allowing PingFederate to use PingOne MFA service for multi-factor authentication. So if you have this configured in the PingFederate, that means you are again allowing PingFederate to use the PingOne multi-factor authentication service for your second factor authentication, right? So in the PingFederate, if you want a second factor authentication, you can just configure this PingOne MFA adapter also, and you are just going to use PingOne MFA service, right? And you can just complete the multi-factor authentication. Okay. And then you have PingOne product adapter, right? What is this PingOne product adapter? So yeah, I can see this in many of the places people started using, and I can see Ping Identity is also bringing some sessions on this to different companies. Yeah, maybe they are just trying to make this product to be used in industry, right? So what is exactly PingOne product adapter is? It's basically like when a user sign on through the PingFederate, the adapter sends the transaction information to the PingOne product service and retrieves a risk evaluation and other information about the user current and previous transaction. That means, like, if you just configure this in PingOne product adapter in the PingFederate, right, then basically, like, first, like, you will just sign on through the PingFederate, right? So the adapter basically sends the transaction information to the PingOne product. So maybe you have some adapter, right, which basically handles the authentication in the PingFed, I'm saying, and now it sends the transaction information to the PingOne product service, right? So basically, using this adapter, you are getting some service of PingFederate, right? It is that we can say as a PingOne product service. So it basically adapter sends the transaction information to the PingOne product service, right? and then it retrieves a risk evaluation and other information about the user current and previous transaction. So basically it retrieves a risk evaluation, right, like from your current transaction and the previous transaction, and based on that it can just have some functionalities, right? So it's a kind of, again I will say, PingOne. There is one other adapter also, PingOne risk, I think, PingOne risk engine kind of thing. So it's like kind of the same thing. It basically just evaluating the transactions, and based on that it just making the things adding some functionalities, right, if there is any risk or maybe just blocking something. Then you have PingOne Verify. So PingOne have many different solution. They are just building the product on a very quicker way. So what is PingOne Verify adapter? So it basically it's allowing, if you configure this again in PingFederate, so again it's allowing PingFederate to use this service, that is PingOne Verify service, to trigger an identity verification challenge as part of the PingFederate authentication policy or registration flow. Okay, that means if you are using this adapter and in the PingFederate, that means you are allowing PingFederate to use this PingOne service, PingOne Verify service, to trigger an identity verification. You are just trying to triggering an identity verification challenge as part of the PingFederate authentication policy or registration flow. That means you are just triggering an identity verification. And for an example, what is identity verification here? Maybe you can use this adapter for personal identity verification also, on the basis of your government issued photo ID card, right? That means like you are using this service, you are just configure this adapter PingOne Verify, and in the PingFed you have just configured in the policy. That means like when this policy is basically triggering, right, when you are accessing something, an application, I will say, right? So as part of this identity verification, it will just give you a challenge and will ask you to just verify yourself, maybe using your government identity card also, right? Like Aadhaar card, PAN card in India. In other country they have their other maybe passport or something like that, right? Their nationality, like whatever the identity card. So you can just verify yourself using that, and then you can just go for the next step. So just giving a challenge, like triggering just an identity verification challenge, right? Now you have the Composite adapter. So let me erase so that I can draw something quickly. Sorry. So you have then Composite adapter. Okay. What is this Composite? It's a kind of, like, I'll say, adapter chaining. Okay, you can just understand this word, adapter chaining. Adapter chaining means like you are just trying to you have multiple adapter, like more than one, like maybe I can say two, and you're just making that adapter in a chain. That means in a sequence, right? In a sequence, like first adapter and second adapter, and they are just doing some work, right? Like for an example, I just try to quickly just show you. Take an example, like you build two adapters. Okay, like first adapter is HTML form, right? I think you are aware of this HTML form. This is basically used in industry also, right? Most in all the companies. And then you have the second adapter. Sorry. Second adapter as I can say PingID. It's some for multi-factor, right? PingID adapter. Now what happens here? Like you have just built a Composite adapter, right? That means you just while building this Composite, you have just given this first adapter as HTML, second adapter as the PingID, and then on the challenge you have given PingID, right? That means what is exactly going to happen when a user try to access an application sends a request to PingFederate. Now in the PingFed, what is happening? PingFed basically just give a first HTML page to the user. Okay, HTML login page. That's the first using the HTML form adapter. Okay, HTML form login page, username, password. That's the first, right? User enter the username, password, gets completed their authentication from the PCB, whatever you configured here, right? What we have understand in the beginning. Then what happened from here? The username basically sends to the adapter number 2. What is adapter number 2 is here? PingID. Okay, you can say PingID. Okay, so this username, okay, username here, it basically passed to the PingID. Now PingID, what is the work of PingID here? Is for multi-factor, right? So PingID also basically integrated with some directory, right? TS server. So So based on like username, it just verify that user from the directory, and then basically just give the like the whatever the mechanism it's configured, right, like the OTP, SMS, whatever you configured in the MFA part, the user, as per that again it just explains that user, and then that authentication will complete. And then finally, like once the authentication cycle complete, the PingFed basically generate the token and send back to the application. So in Composite, what is exactly happening? You have a chain of 2 adapters here, which basically just working in a sequence. So once first completed, it basically sends that information to the next, and the next adapter just verifies as per their authentication design, right, or authentication mechanism. Okay, so in our case, what we can do, like we are not have the PingID, but what we can do, we can just build 2 HTML form adapter only. Okay, one we can build with our PCV, that is OpenDJ, and we can build another HTML form with the simple username PCV, right? And then we can try to see in our case what happened, that because we are not have any external source. So first maybe we can give this HTML form, so it can just verify using that PCV, and then it will send that user to that our maybe simple username PCV, and we need to see that whether our same user is stored there or not. If not, we can try to build that also, right? And those things we can test like in not now, because right now we are just trying to understanding the concept and we are building, right? But for testing, yeah, we just need to, as I told, right, we need to complete till authentication session, and then once we onboard an application, then we can just do all this testing, right? So maybe we can see that, yeah, as I'm saying, right? So we need to just think about, like, as we are not have the PingID, but we have the 2 HTML form adapter, and we can just see that if we have the same username, or we can create username also, right, in our another simple user name PCV, as well as in the OpenDJ side, right? And then we can just see that first we can just trigger this HTML form, which can basically verify, and then we can send again back to the same HTML form, but the validation is different, right, because we have the another PCV there. And then we can see in our case, it's just like authentication done here also, authentication will complete here also, and then finally the token will generate and send back to the application. Similar way has what we are seeing here, but in this case PingID is a different authentication mechanism, it's a multi-factor. But in our case, in our lab, what we can see, it's the same kind of authentication, but the verification is different, right? It's one is with the OpenDJ PCV, another is with the simple username PCV, right? So it's just a chain of adapter, and where you're just sending the parameter from one adapter to the second after verification of the first factor or the first adapter, and then sending the username to the second, and second will just do the validation again. Like that it's happening in the Composite adapter, right? So chain of adapters. Let's remove this. Yeah, it's almost done. I think we are left with the 1 or 2 more, and then we can quickly jump to, I think in my list, I think it's most of the things are completed. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, yeah, it's removed. So now let's go to quickly, what is the next in my list is pass through. We are discussing many different types of adapters, but all are not in use in industry. I'll just tell you what we are generally using, right? But yeah, let me complete this quickly. I think 2 more are left. Yeah, so pass through IDP adapter is what exactly it's basically allows user key, right, to be associated with the user authentication session. That means you have a user key, you can play around with that. That means you can query that, you can basically revoke the user session using that, right? So it basically just work with the user key, right, that attribute I will say, right, and based on that it will just revoke the session and query the user also, right, using that. So yeah, I haven't also used pass-through IDP adapter, but yeah, in general maybe it's a one of the type, maybe in some cases it has been used. Yeah. Okay, leave this now. What is the next? Next we have in the list is reference IDP. Yeah, this is one of the important thing. It will not be difficult for now, I'll say, as we have covered the open token, so it's a kind of same thing. So reference ID, it's a IDP as well as SP adapter. It can be used for the IDP as well as the SP, both the cases, but we'll just try to understand one example, and from there you can understand what is the use of this, right? So we, in the open token, what we covered, we basically just talk about that like agent based configuration, right? Now this is agentless. Okay, It's a kind of same thing what you have seen in OpenToken, but little bit different, but the concept it's basically same only, right? So if I can just quickly show you let me draw something. So again, same thing will repeat, right? So take an example, you have an application, okay, you have an application, and we have here PingFed SP, PingFed IDP, okay, PingFed service provider, PingFederate identity provider, okay, and app is there, right? What else is left? Yeah, okay, this looks fine. Now let's draw a user also here. Okay, now what happened, like I'll just give you a flow, okay, like exactly what is going to happen. So basically user will just definitely go to the browser and then access the application. Again, a kind of you can say a legacy type of application which basically not support any standard. That's why it's going with agent based or agentless configuration for single sign-on, right? But this application also looking for single sign-on. Now this application, what application will do here, it basically just sends a request, you can say, to the PFSP, okay. Okay, now in the PFSP, if you remember in the OpenToken, what we have in the OpenToken, in the PingFed SP side, we have the connection and we have the OpenToken adapter configured. Now here what happened, here what we'll do, I'm just showing here, okay. Now here we have the here we have the reference, okay, I'll say as a reference SP adapter, right? So I'm just giving you the example for the in case of SP, but yeah, like just try to understand. Maybe you can use in a different way as per the requirement or the design, but you just need to understand what exactly this reference ID adapter is working, right? Whether you are using in terms of IDP or SP, but exactly what is happening here, we just need to understand, right? So basically you can think that like this user just went to the application is just send the user to the PFSP, okay. Now this PFSP and PFIDP just communicate using SAML as it is in the OpenToken. In the similar way it will do here also. Okay, now here like we have the reference SP adapter configured in this PFSP, right? So first, now the request will go to PFIDP. In the PFIDP we have maybe HTML form adapter configured, so it will just verify the username password using the PCB. Once that is done, it will generate the token and send the assertion back to this PFSP, okay, as we can see here, okay. Once that assertion has been sent to this PFSP, once that assertion has been sent to the PFSP, what happened here, using this reference SP adapter, there will be a reference you can say, yeah, the reference kind of number and a resume URI, okay. These two things basically going to send back to this one to basically to the application, okay. So now what happened in this case, like I'll just draw like this, okay. This is all happening through browser only, I'm not displaying the browser here, okay. So first user went to the app, from app it just user went to the PFSP, from PFSP as per the connection it just went to the PFIDP using SAML. At PFIDP the basic authentication happened, and then using HTML form, and then the response or assertion has been sent to the PFSP. Now at the PFSP, from the PFSP there is a using reference SP adapter. If you remember in the OpenToken case, we have the some OpenToken type of thing configured, right, and that has been sent to the application. In similar way in this place, not OpenToken, here we are just going to send the reference number kind of thing, opaque number, and with the resume URI, okay. So basically we are just going to send them like this like reference number, and I'll just mention here, okay, you can say reference and resume path kind of thing. Okay, these two things has been sent to the application, okay, reference ID and reference kind of number and resume path. Now here How app can able to verify the user, right? Because using reference and resume path, it's not going to work in that way, right? In this reference, maybe the user session is stored, right? But application not able to understand, right, that number, opaque number, and how it can able to get the user information from there. Now what happens that uh, using this once the application receive this reference and resume path, it will just, what it will do, in the PingFed SP you have an endpoint, okay? The reference SP adapter have an endpoint defined, okay? So application will send again call, go for again next call to the this endpoint, okay, with this reference number to fetch the user attributes, because at the reference SP adapter you have configured some attribute in similar way what we did in the open token case also, right? Open token adapter. So similar way in the reference SP also we have the attribute configured, and already we received the assertion from the PF IDP in this case, so we have that attribute stored, right? We have the user email address, first name, last name, like that. But what we have sent here, we just sent from PFSP, we send reference and resume path to application. Now how application can know the user, right, using this? So that's why application has to go for another call to the end point of that SP, reference SP adapter, to get the user attribute, okay, using this reference number. Now application will not send directly a request to the reference SP and get the user attribute, right, because it's not going to allow. So this application has to get authenticate also. I'll mention it, right? So application also, this request also has to get authentication. So for that, application has to authenticate. They have basically PingFed just defining you three methods, like either you can go with HTTP basic authentication, where you can just complete your authentication, and then you have the authorization as a peer in the header part, right? And using that you can basically able to get user attribute, or you can just go with the another option, that certificate based authentication, or you can go with the custom HTTP header variable using pf.uname and pf.password something. So these are the three authentication mechanism, but you need to authenticate this request. You can see this request has to get authenticated. It's not like you get the reference and you can directly call to reference SP endpoint and get the user attribute. No, you need to get your authentication also complete, either with via three methods, right? Either with HTTP basic, certificate, or custom HTTP header variables, right? So this is a kind of rough idea of reference ID. This is a kind of agentless. Here you can see there is no agent. You're not configuring any agent anywhere, right? You're just configuring some connection in the PingFed side, in the SP as well as IDP. You built one adapter which basically creates a reference value, and using that it basically sends it can just help the application to get the user attribute, right? And the application side, you definitely need to configure the endpoints and all those things so that the request can be communicated, right? So it's agentless, and it's preferred more compared to the agent-based configuration, because it's more secure, right? Because you're not just installing any agent file or anything, or not sharing any agent thing, in the application side, right? Okay, so this is about reference ID adapter. If you have anything, you can please put in the comment section. At least you need to know, right? So that, like, for example, if you're working for some project and new requirement came, right? So at least you can understand, okay, I know, okay, reference ID works like agentless, right? So I just need to do something here in PingFederate, in the IDP side, in the SP side. I just need to build the attribute, right? And then I just need to understand I just need to guide the application team also. They just need to configure the endpoints, and they can just communicate to our PingFed side, and they can get the reference number, and they using that they can just send a request to us. They can just get their user attribute, like that. Okay, so now I think we completed all. The last one is left, I think, and that's important. I think it's X.509 cert based authentication. Okay. What happened? Disconnected. Yeah, it's working like that, maybe. Not sure why it says disconnected. Okay, yeah. So X509 cert based authentication is very, very important, right? Like I have seen people are using this in the industry, and it's a good, I think, like to get the user seamless access, right? And in this authentication, this type of authentication, you can see there is no use of PCV, right? Like maybe we discussed multiple adapters, right? So you can see in some of the adapters there is no use of password credential validated, right? but in some adapters we need to use PCV, so that like you can able to verify the username and password. So it depends on how you're designing an authentication. Take an example, if like X509 cert based authentication or Kerberos, you can see there is no requirement of PCV there, right? Password credential validated. That's why like in the initial I told you, right? So in some place we need to use, in some place we are not supposed to use that. So but yeah, we need to understand. So the cert based authentication, what is exactly like? First, definitely you need to just design that adapter. Like I'll say it's not X509 cert adapter. Sorry. Yeah. So definitely you need to just define this adapter first in the PingFed side. And how you are defining that, like maybe I'll show you also like in the lab. So basically like you just need to just define the issuer, like you have like in the organization you have some like root certificate issue, right? Like your certificate authority, I'll say, right? Your company certificate authority. So for those certificate authority you have a root certificate, right? So you just need to define the root part in the adapter, right? You just need to define that like this basically that how that validation, certificate validation is going to happen, right? You have a certificate chain, right? X509 certificate chain. So from there you just need to like once the user browser present the certificate, you just need to look for that like validation, that whether certificate is valid or not, and whether the issuer is correct or not, and you have some template certificate like sent by your company. So basically like in your company you have a PKI team, like in general, right? Public key infrastructure team. So they will just issue a template, right, for your SSO part, right? For your single sign-on part, like using certificate based authentication, they will just issue a template to you. Like, sorry, the main network is disconnected. Okay, so basically they will just give you that like your company will just your PKI team will just give you like a template of SSO file, right, with the object ID and the template name, right? And that's basically used for your certificate based authentication. That means like while building the adapter in Ping, first you definitely need to build that adapter in PingFed, right? That means you just need to define the like the root part, the who is the issuer and all, right, of the certificate. Then you need to just define the what is the host, right, through which you are going to use the certificate based authentication. Then you need to define that port number, right? So few all these things you need to define, and exactly what is happening in certificate based, like as I told, right, your public key team, public key infrastructure team is just issued a certificate, right, using that template, and it has been basically pushed through the user machine, right? Like for example, in your company, if you have like maybe 1 lakh employees working, right, and they have your company laptop, right? So in all the laptop, basically that certificate has been pushed, right? Now what happened that once user will try to access some application, take an example like Salesforce, right, or ServiceNow. So in that case, like if ServiceNow basically just integrated with certificate based adapter, right, X509 set adapter, X509 set adapter at PingFed side, then how the things will flow like. So basically in this case the browser requests the user client certificate, right, the PFX509 cert adapter. In that case, basically like for example, you can think about that the request initiated, right, from ServiceNow to the PingFederate, right? Now at the PingFed you have the X509 cert adapter configured. So in this case, first what happened, the browser basically requests the user client certificate. So basically browser will request and it will just present that client certificate, right, after requesting. Once that certificate is presented, it's basically that certificate is issued to individual, right, to all the users of your company, right? The root will be same, maybe whatever the certificate authority you have, but the user will be different, and it have some validity, and it have some like the root intermediate, like that. It's a kind of chain certificate, I'll say. So so basically browser requests the user client certificate, then the PingFederate X509 adapter, the cert adapter basically validates the certificate against a list of issuers, right? Because you already defined that, as I told, while building the adapter you defined the list of issuers, right? So on that basis it will just first validate the certificate, right, against a list of issuers, and then you have the like, because you define the issuers, right, in the adapter instance configuration. If no issuers are specified in the adapter instance configuration, then the adapter will check against the server list of trusted certificate authorities, right? And if the cert is valid, then PingFed will allow. Otherwise, it will just give you some error page, right? So basically, that browser is just presenting a certificate during the certificate based authentication. And at the PingFed side, you have the adapter where you just define the root, you define the host, port number, and all. And you have that as I told, right, you have that template and the object ID get like sent from the public key infrastructure team. So using that you build a certificate chain, right, and you're just configured in the adapter side, right? So you're going to validate that part also, and yeah, so if it is correct, then it's allow, otherwise it will just block and give you the error page. Okay, so I think we basically covered different types of adapters, so let's have a quickly have a look on that, so that just for revision, and then we can quickly go to the lab and we can just create few adapters, and then we can jump to the next session of authentication policy contract. Okay, so the first adapter we discuss is like HTML form. Okay, HTML form adapter. Then the next one we discussed is HTTP basic. HTTP basic adapter. Then we have identifier first adapter. Okay. Then we have Kerberos adapter. Then we have open token adapter. Then in my list we have PingID adapter. Okay, then we have PingOne PingOne adapter. Then we have PingOne MFA adapter. Okay, then we have, I think, PingOne MFA adapter. Then after that we have PingOne protect adapter. Yeah. Just working with risk evaluation. Then we have PingOne verify. Then we have the Composite. In many of the companies nowadays, people are not using Composite also. Yes. Then you have pass through IDP adapter. Okay. Then you have reference ID. Reference ID, IDP or SP, I'd say adapter. Yeah, a few of the adapters maybe you can use in both the sides, like open token, right, as well as IDP side as well as on SP side. Reference token just work, reference ID also work in a similar way. Okay, and then you have what is left, I think, yeah, X509 such adapter. Yeah, so out of this, if you can see that, like if you like think about that, if you need to just if you are just get a contract for one company and they are just saying you to just build everything from scratch, right? So what adapter you will select, as I maybe if you just think about. So first of all, I just look for the certificate based authentication, seamless based authentication, right? So that I can just give a user experience that so that they can just get access to the application without asking for any kind of login prompt at the initial or maybe whatever time they are just trying to access an application, right? So for that I have only two adapter in this case, right? Either I can say Kerberos or I have the certificate based authentication, that is X509 cert adapter. So using these two adapter I can plan a seamless authentication for the user, right? So I can plan I can just take these two in my list. Okay, now if there are few applications which look for the form based authentication, right? So for that I'll just look for HTML form adapter in my list, right? So I just took for seamless as X509 or Kerberos, and for HTML form, for form based authentication I just put HTML form in my list, right? Now for the multi-factor, as we need to design multi-factor also, right? So I can just take as a PingID adapter. Okay, PingID adapter for my multi-factor thing, right? And rest you can see that PingOne or PingOne protect, PingOne verify, it depends on the requirement, or maybe as per your infra, right, whether you want to use that or not, or whether it's fine, whatever you are using, it's working fine with those. So you just need to think about for that. But yeah, like as in the initial like you just need to use like this X509 cert or like Kerberos or HTML form, and for the MFA maybe you can just look into the PingID adapter, right? And open token adapter, it's and reference token, these reference ID, sorry, these are based on the like application. They're not very much application. Maybe you will see in any organization, maybe there are few application only which are utilizing these types of authentication, like whether using open token or the reference ID adapter, right? But we have less, but we have. So at least if you have an idea, so if there is any type of requirement is coming, so at least you can able to handle, and you can just help the team to do the configuration, right? So this is about adapter types. So I hope you get something, right? If you have some confusion, please put in the comment section, we can discuss again. But just focus for now, I'll say, like to the X509 Kerberos HTML form, and now the multi-factor side as a PingID, right? And open token we'll definitely discuss again. We have the complete session for that. We can just configure also an application so that we can just see end-to-end flow also, right? Okay, so now let's jump to the lab section and quickly just create adapter. Okay, few, like maybe we'll just try to build like let's see, we can just first we can create, I'm just thinking for two types of adapter we can build, right? We can just go for the HTML form, and we can go for the Composite also, right? That I mentioned, like Composite. Okay, just to show you, right? Maybe Composite is not been used much, but just to, yeah, we can verify that. So yeah, PingOne we can't use for now, as I haven't account there, so we are not able to use that. But yeah, we can use HTML form. We can create two adapters using HTML form, one with the, as I told, with the OpenDJ PCB, another with that simple username PCB, right? So you can see that. And yeah, and one is with Composite. That means we are going to make a chain of those two adapters. So yeah, so let's quickly jump to the lab section and quickly create that. Okay, this is our lab section. Let me go quickly open that. PingFederate, yeah, this is the one, right? Yeah, this is the correct administrator, but with the password. Yeah, so let me check quickly the cluster management, whether it's fine or not, like whether our engine is in cluster or not. So if your engine is down, no, this is your engine, okay, PingFed engine. So if it is down, maybe it will be removed from here, right? So maybe you can verify from here also. Okay, so now this is good. Seems on GMT time. Okay, fine. Now let's quickly go to authentication section, right? Under that you have the IDP adapter, right? So right now we are just making the adapter by making PingFederate as an identity provider, right? That's why we're going for IDP. Once if PingFed can act as a service provider, then you can go for the application section, and then you can create SP adapter, right? You have the option there also. So yeah, right now we are mainly focusing where PingFederate acting as an identity provider, right? So yeah, let's go. So basically IDP adapter lookup session information and provide user information to PingFederate. Here you can manage instances of adapter that may be used to fulfill attribute, contract and protocol mapping. Okay, so Ping will just give you some line also to just have a just overview kind of thing. Yeah, now let's quickly go to create new instance. Now we'll choose an instance name as a, you can think about so we are just going to create HTML form, right? So I'll put as a HTML form, and I'll put OpenDJ. Okay, same thing I'll put in the instance ID also. Okay, type select, you can just select as a HTML form, right? You can see these are all the types of what we discussed right now. Yeah, this is all present here in the by default, right? Here we haven't done any customization, right? And basically PingFed will just give you some predefined thing, right? Like for adapter, data store, PCB policy, all those things, but you can just do customization in everywhere, right? But you need to understand exactly what is the requirement, right? And based on that we can do that. And we can just look for the custom of adapter also in our, not now, maybe after, once we complete the fundamentals and the log and all those things, then we can just plan, maybe after PF40 we'll just look for the custom adapter also. Okay, we can just write a code in Java and we can see that. Okay, so for now just let's go to HTML form, go to next. Now as I'm talking about, right, you just need to feed the few values here, but the main things is PCB, attribute, contract, session time, those things, right? So now as I told you, right, you need to define a PCB in HTML form so that the username password will be verified. So I'll just go to add a new row to credential validator, and I'll select one. So I'll just going to select OpenDJ, right, because we just put a name here, OpenDJ. Challenge retries is, so basically if you are not have the idea, you can just read the description and you'll get the subject part, right, the description part. So what it says here, the number of failed user authentication after which the PingFed account locking service blocks future attempts, right? So basically it will just block you if you're just putting the wrong that much, like 3 times, 5 times, like that. So you can put here as a 5, okay, not 3. And session state is, what is session state here? So determine how state is maintained within one adapter or between different adapter instances. To take advantage of additional features, it is recommended to use a PingFederate authentication session rather than the adapter's internal session state capability, right? So basically, if we want to take some additional features, then let's go with the globally, or otherwise you can go with the per adapter also, right? So whatever the adapter session, it will just look into that only. But yeah, as it's mentioning, we are going with the globally. Session timeout default is saying that 60 and max is 480. That means 1 to 8 hours. So leave that, okay? Not a problem. Allow password changes, leave this all things, enable remember my username. So you can just enable those options to see the functionality, right? So if you put enable remember my username, so in the adapter you can see that your username will be remembered, right? So it can just again populate, right, once you try next time, like that. Enable this is my device, okay. Allow user to indicate whether device is shared or private. In this mode, PingFed authentication session will not be stored unless the user indicates the device is private, right? This adapter internal session tracking will not be affected by the user selection, like this, okay. Leave that for now. Change password policy contract not required. Change password notification, so password expiring. Password reset type is like you can choose if you have, otherwise just leave it none. Password reset policy contract, and there is nothing for us. So yeah, leave this option. Let's go to advanced and have a look. So you have the login template as a html.form.login.template.html. So this is default. Again, you can customize this also page, but yeah, this is the default Ping is giving to you. Yeah, so enable username recovery, nothing is there. Logout path, logout yeah, few of the template is generic like what Ping is giving to you, right? Password update timeout is 30 yeah, minutes, like that. Change password email template, expiring password warning template. So all those things you have. So threshold for expiring password 7, snows interval, right? So right now we haven't designed our password portal, right? How the user password is going to handle, right? Because we are not that's a kind of development work in this, right? So maybe you need to design and develop your password, completely the password portal, right? Where basically you are handling the user password related issues, right? If the user forget the password, or maybe the new user registration, or the kind of multi-factor part, right? So all these things you can manage in the self-service portal kind of thing. In every company, it's basically people are developing and just working on that. So you can just that there is a development work, right? So like that you can just do the developments and you can just see, yeah, you can explore more, right? So yeah, this is login challenge. Remember my username lifetime is 30 days, and this is my device. Leave this. Track authentication time. Okay, yeah, leave this. I think OTP length is for self-service password reserve is not, we are not working for now. Yeah, so the OTP character set, password reset, token validity time, risk provider. I think there is nothing because we haven't configured anything. Okay, there is no. So if you configure that risk provider service, now I think we discussed in that, like in the PingOne verify, PingOne trace protect, right? So yeah, those are, if you have those adapter configured, then you can just do those things here. Yeah. So it depends like how you're designing and configuring, but for now, just yeah, I just told you about the session time, PCV. Those things are more important. Okay, the rest of the things are fine. Leave that. Let's go to next. Okay, I need to update it. Sorry, I haven't updated this PCV. Now we can go for the next. And yeah, you can see here it just asking for the extending contract, right? So we have the policy.action username. Okay. So you can extend the contract here, or you can leave this. Okay, so for now maybe I'll extend the contract like email, just means the user attribute it's asking. Okay, so I extend the contract as email and leave the other options. Okay, go to next. Now you have the adapter attributes here, right? So here you can see the policy.action, right? So and you have the attribute username and the email, right? So basically policy.action is nothing, it's basically how the user is logged in, it basically talks about, right? And then you have the policy.action username. So I'll just pseudonym means that it's basically just as an IDP, some of your SP partners may choose to receive a pseudonym to uniquely identify user, right? So basically you are just uniquely identifying that value, and your SP is also going to verify a user on that basis only, on the username attribute, whatever the information you are passing in that, it just take that value as a unique and then going to verify that user from their database, like that. So I'll put pseudonym as a username, right? What is this mask log values? It's nothing but, like, for an example, if you mask the log value, like if I just put the log values for username, right? In that case, what happen? once the authentication will complete, then if I can go in the PingFed logs, and if I try to search this transaction, I'm unable to get the username, right? I am able to see time and stamp, I'm able to see other details, but not able to see the username because I'm just masked that values, right? That's the thing, so it's not required, right? So let's go next. Now you have the configure adapter, okay, adapter contract mapping. What is this? Basically it is used when we extend the contract, right? For example, right now in this case we have the username and I extended the email, right? So now we need to just bring this value so that like once we configure a connection, whether it's SAML or any other connection, then we can just bring the value from the data store, right? Like so we can basically bring that connection we can just fetch the user attribute from the data store and send that to the application in the form of token, right? So for that only, like we have this, like configure adapter contract mapping, right? So let's quickly go to configure adapter contract, and here you can just add the attribute source ID. So attribute source ID we can just choose as a like let's put OpenDZ DS, okay. Attribute source description, let's put the same thing, OpenDZ DS. Sorry. So here basically we are defining this like how we are going to get that information, right? That attribute, as I told you, right? So there are two things of adapter, right? Like one is to verify the user using PCV that we already defined. Now we need to bring some information, right, from the data store so that we can send to the application in the form of token. So that's what we are doing here, right? So doing the adapter contract mapping. So the active data store, let's choose a OpenDZ in this case. Now go to next. So base DN will be it will be the same, like if you remember that what we have chosen, it will be like OU, start with the OU and DC, right? So maybe let me see if I copied somewhere. Okay, great, I just copied. Otherwise I need to again go back to the OpenDZ directory server. So base DN is from where the search is going to start, right? So that's fine, I think. OU equal to learns, because we are going to search from the OU only, right? Search scope will be subtree, right? Subject DN. Here if I can just search for so all attributes, let me see if I am getting what attributes in the OpenDZ. So I'll just try to get the email, okay. Sorry. So first I need to go to, you can see how I'm just going there, right? First I define the base DN, then search scope subtree, then I'm basically going to the root object class and attribute. We have the subject DN as a predefined thing. Now we are just defining the other values like so that we can just fulfill our attribute contract, right? So we have the username and the email. So I'm just searching here. So I just click here, show all attributes, and I'm searching the value so that we can bring from the OpenDZ server, right? So I'm just searching for the email. So it should be email address. That's fine. So I'll add this attribute. Okay, now I'll search for something like username. Username, is there something? Let's see. Sorry, I don't see. Maybe we have any username, right? So maybe in the username also we can bring the email values, right? That's not a problem. But what we are exactly doing here? Like basically we are just trying to search the user in the directory and bringing the values from there, right? The username, email address, first name, last name, group, and all those whatever. Yeah. So maybe I'm not seeing username here. Okay, leave this. I mean we had already added one email address. Let's go next. And we have the LDAP filter, right? So LDAP filter we can use as a like what we just put in our like defining that right, like the directory server. So we can put as the same thing. So cn equals to $. If there is any issue here, we can just rectify and solve this, right? But for now we are just trying to build we build data store, we build PCB, we are building adapter. We haven't tested this, right? Once how we are going to test this, once we have the policy ready after PF19, and once we onboard a SAML based application, or yes, the SAML will be the first for us, then we can just test all this, like whether our policy is working fine or not, whether our adapter is working fine or not, and all those things, right? We can see. So let's go next. Okay, that's fine. So I think it looks fine. Let me click on done. Okay, so we have the attribute sources configured. So basically what is this? So attribute sources and user lookup, right? So this is basically, we just configure this. That means we can look the user information from this OpenDJ DS, right? That's the attribute source for us. Now let's go to next. Now we have the adapter contract fulfillment. That means first you are trying to get the values from the DS directory server, and now you are going to fill the attribute contract. That means like if you have defined some username, email, now how you are going to get those values, or how we are going to fulfill that values, you need to define here, right? So you can see email policy.action username, right? And you have the source here. So source will be adapter, right, in this case, or maybe you can choose LDAP OpenDJ DS also, right? Anything. So I'll just choose as LDAP OpenDJ DS for the email, and for here also I'll choose as a LDAP OpenDJ DS. Okay, that means basically we are just trying to get the values from our LDAP OpenDJ DS, because we defined in the attribute sources and user lookup, right? So otherwise you can directly also get from adapter also, right? Because you have a adapter configured that basically connects to that directory server and bring the user information. So email I'll put as a email address, and in the username also I'll use the email address. I'll go next. Issuance is criteria is basically where you're trying to restrict any users. For example, post authentication, if you want to restrict some user on the basis of some criteria, then you can do this, right? But for us, no, not required, and we can just look into issuance criteria further, right? More at how we are going to restrict the user, right? For now, leave it. Like, just focus on how we are building the adapter, right? Just look into that, and once that is ready, we are good. Yeah. Okay, so this is done. Click on next and try to save this. Yeah, so our adapter looks to be ready. Okay, so cluster management icon is populated. Okay, that's fine. So HTML form OpenDJ adapter we have done. Let's open that, and you can able to see that it's it's using the PCV, OpenDJ PCV, and other values we have, and yeah, like adapter contract fulfillment, we define this all everything. Yeah, for adapter, yeah, how adapter is going to get the values here, right? Whether the email and all those things. So this looks fine. Yeah, if there is any issue while testing, it's very good to do the troubleshooting, and you will really understand. For now, just understand that we define the PCV, we define the session, and then we define the attribute contract mapping, right? It means adapter contract mapping. That means in adapter we define some attributes, and now we need to fulfill those values, like if username, email, first name, whatever. So how we are going to fulfill? So we just basically define our directory server OpenDJ, and then we are pulling the values from there and just configuring our adapter, right? So that we can just at the time of building the connection, we can simply define this adapter and bring those information, right? And just simply send that token to the application. Yeah, let's go and quickly try to create one more adapter. Okay, I'll say this as this is also a type of HTML form only. So I'll say HTML form simple username PCV. So SU PCV. Okay, because we are going to use the PCV here as a simple username PCV. So you can see that we are just using this. We are just building the adapter for the same type, but the PCV we are changing. That means user verification is changed here, right? In the first case, we have the OpenDJ, that is a LDAP. That's the OpenDJ directory server of LDAP. Another is a simple username PCV. That means user information is stored in PingFederate itself, like a username, password, like that. Okay, so type. Let's choose a HTML form. Go to next. Choose a PCV as a SU PCV. Click on update. Yeah, just put quill the values like 5 globally. Other values are fine. Okay, no need to make any changes. Will not take much time. Yeah, let's go to next. Yeah, I think let's put as an email here, or again for this also as extending contract. Add it. Go to next. Adapter attributes we have, like let's take a username as a pseudonym. Only to mask the log values. Click on next. Configure the adapter contract, right? So yeah, either you can choose an attribute source also, or you can directly fetch from adapter also. I will show you. Like let's go to next. Only to add any attribute source, and you have the values here. Like you can see email as a source as adapter. It means if you choose adapter, that means it is going to bring from the adapter, right? That means this adapter is going to connect to that data store and bring the values for you, right? Like yeah, whether it's an email, username, like that. But if you define that any directory server, that means it can bring from there also. So source here you can choose like as adapter, or maybe you can choose as a directory server. But yeah, anyhow the user reside in DS only, so this adapter will also do the same thing, right? So let's go to next. but in this case it's not OpenDJ, so it's a simple username PCB. So yeah, maybe, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you can put as adapter, right, so that you can just bring the value from that storage, right, inside PingFed only under SUPCB. Let's go to next. Nation creator not required, we are not going to restrict anyone here. Done. Next, and just save it. Okay, so now we have the configuration of two adapter with the HTML form OpenDJ and HTML form SUPCB. Now let's create a composite adapter by mixing these two, right? So let's mix composite ADP. Okay, you can say as a composite ADP, and choose a type as a composite adapter. So you can see somewhere composite, yeah, first one. Okay, now go to next. So you can see what is first asking, adapter instance, right, and then a target adapter. So if you remember in the session we discussed that if you have a chain of two adapters and like HTML form and the PingID, and in the target also you need to give adapter which basically go for the next part, right? So for an example, if you have like HTML form as a first and second as a PingID, so target you need to give the PingID, so that like once your first authentication happened, it will just send the username to the second factor, to the second adapter, I will say, and the second adapter will just handle the authentication based on whatever the configuration designed for that, right? So let's quickly go to add a new row to adapters, and I'll just add like first as a HTML form OpenDJ. Okay, policy required, authentication context weight I'll just put as a 3. Okay, and click on update. Now I'll again add a new row to adapter, so I'll put as a HTML form SUPCB. So I'll put a context weight more here, that means that basically the second will definitely trigger, right, the second factor. If I put less importance, so maybe it can just ignore that also, right? It can just complete with that first adapter only, right? So I'll give as a 5. Okay, so I'm giving more, or give a 4, sorry, so that like, yeah, so the second factor have the importance also, right, using the authentication context weight. Otherwise if I give less weightage, so it can just complete with that cycle also. Okay, so these two adapters I added in the first instance, like HTML form as a first, second as a HTML form SUPCB, right? Now in the target I need to again add one adapter here, so I'll add it in the target. I'll put as a SUPCB. Okay, user ID selection will be like email. Click on update. So that means email has been passed, going to pass from where to where, like from OpenDJ to the HTML form SUPCB, and then SUPCB will just verify the user, and then the token generation will happen, right? That authentication cycle basically going to complete. Okay, so this is about that, and then what we have here, so defines the order in which different values are written for the same attribute name. Add to back, leave this. Next, extend the contract, I think not required. Adapter attributes, you must define at least one attribute. Okay, so let's define that email only. Click on add, go to next. Okay, so email as a COD name will say, go to next. Yeah, at least we need to define one attribute, sorry, like, so that how we can then bring the value from, or how we can just once we define that in the application, we need to just yeah, generate the token, and for the token we need some value, right? So at least we need to define one attribute. Now configure adapter contribute, just to do the same thing. Go on next, email as adapter, fine, go to next, next, and just click on done, I think. Yeah, click on done, next, and let's save this. Okay, so it looks fine. So we have 3 adapters now, right, like HTML form OpenDJ, HTML form SUPCB, and then Composite. So you can see check uses. Check uses basically just give you an idea where exactly this adapter is being utilized, right? So if I click on this, it will just talk about the PCB part, right? So yeah, it repeats basically, sorry, used in Composite adapter is talk about, yeah. Okay, so now let's do so basically now we have 3 adapters is fine, we can test that. So we can just create 3 application, one with the HTML form OpenDJ, one with the HTML form SUPCB, and one with the Composite, and we can see how the test is going, right? So right now just do the cluster management. That means let's push the changes to our engine node, so that engine node is replicated. Okay, it's saying applying, succeeded. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I think it's completed. So it's a very long session today, but I hope you understand the things. Like we have different types of adapter we covered. We just build two adapters, right? Two types of adapter. I'll say HTML form and the composite, and we basically created three adapters, and we can test these three also in our once our policy defined and selector defined. When once we build the logic, and then once we create onboard an application, a SAML based application, then we can do the testing for all these adapters and all, and PCB anti-tester also, right? So yeah, for now this is good, and yeah, let's quickly jump to the next, that is authentication policy contract. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for watching this. Have a good day.